This man, Lewis, everyone will know him. He's a big supporter of the Bayern View, and yeah, man, this one should be funny. The reason I've got him on is this guy is super interesting in the fact that, you know, we could talk about anime, we could talk about Star Wars, we could talk about Japan, we could talk about history, we could talk about freaking everything. So yeah, man, big up Lewis, thank you for coming on, bro. And yeah, man, this should be fun, bro.
No, big up to you, Liam. Thank you for having me on. I very much appreciate this. And yeah, I'm excited to talk about a lot of things today. So, in the words of Cody Rhodes, what do you want to talk about?
Of course, you had to hit it with that. So first things first, I think we should talk about you first, because me and you are gonna go into tangents. You know what I mean? We are.
Yeah, sure.
It's gonna happen. But like, what was like growing up like for you?
Well, growing up for me was very quiet, very adventurous at times. What I mean by quiet, it's I usually stuck to myself. I did have friends, and I hung out with my friends at that time for a very long time. And I'd always be around them, but it was just I just remember myself being mainly quiet, not really talking much. If I did, that means I was like very close to you because I've always been the type of person to like not really talk. I've always been the quietest one in the room. I don't really that's social events aren't really my thing. So yeah, it was just it was always quiet, but then it was also adventurous because you got to see a lot of different things, a lot of New York things. I would end up seeing. You would end up going to a lot of different places in New York, especially when you're young. You see New York completely different compared to like anything else when you're very young. You got to see a lot of different people, cultures, attitudes. So yeah, it was actually very interesting, but. Yeah, it was also very adventurous because I made friends with people in different walks of life. I've made friends with different from people from different cultures. It's actually a pretty surreal experience. But even with all of that, it was still quiet, at least per se. I was able to like divide my personal life with like my life like outside, like in the streets and stuff. And yeah, it was just pretty quiet. I pretty kept to myself and I was just being a nerd when I was at home, being quiet, being alone. Reading became a very interesting thing for me when I was younger. I used to read a lot, especially like Star Wars and all that stuff. But when it came to school, my reading level was like down the drain. But that's because I really didn't care to like read the stuff that I was given about in school.
Yeah. So was school not your thing?
Yeah, believe it or not, school wasn't my thing growing up. The only thing I liked about school was history and then computer class. Like those are the only two subjects I really liked. As I've gotten older, I've also started to like science and then math later on. But yeah, reading it just wasn't really my thing. I guess I don't really know how to explain it to you since you don't live like in the States, but what I had was an IEP, which is like an individualized educational plan which
Okay.
labels me as a special ed kid, a special education kid.
Okay.
If that makes sense. I don't know if it's like that in the UK. I don't really know if you know what
Yeah.
special education means. But the whole purpose of special education is basically like when I was growing up, it's like, oh, this kid's in special ed class. That was considered like a derogatory remark towards that individual.
Yeah.
So it doesn't really have a good rep. But yeah, I ended up growing up with that. I haven't really read like what it says that I have, but I maybe I have a learning disability. I'm not too sure, but in my personal opinion, I was just lazy, bro. Or I just wasn't interested in the topics that school was offering to me. Like I remember when I was younger, dude, like a lot of my teachers would tell my parents, like, oh yeah, I had low grade reading levels, like I had a second grade reading level, being in the fourth grade or the fifth grade and stuff like that. But in reality, like I had no problem reading like World War II university level reference books at that age. It's just the stuff that they gave me to read. I was pretty boring.
that is the thing with like children though, as a whole, and
Yeah.
people as a whole though, isn't it? Like in the fact that people react to things differently. You know,
Right.
you can tell certain people to, you know, in the instructions of turn to page 52 or whatever, and blah 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 blah.
Right.
But like, I understand what you're saying in certain aspects because I'm the same. You know, again,
Right.
the reason I want to do this is to chat about, you know, things about you and so on and so forth, which we'll get
For
into. But
sure.
like, more in the fact of like the reason, like with me and YouTube. Now, I'm not on a million subs or anything like that, but I understand how it works. You
Right.
ask me to read a textbook, good luck. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
You know, even if I was to do the amount of years I've done on YouTube in a particular subject or whatever, you're not going to be able to get the same result because, you know, I'm dyslexic. So it's just never going to happen. So no, I do understand. And I think it's the way with the passion as well. Do you not think? When you're passionate about
Right. For
something, you
sure.
care more.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That plays a big role because it's like you said. Like for me, I have these two things. One's my schoolwork, which is like 30 pages long. One's a history book, which is it's a thick boy. I'm most likely going to read this and be interested in this quicker than I
Yeah.
can get into this.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
That's just the way it is. You can't really change that with people, but everybody's like that, and that's like one of my I'm not really a gripe with school, but it was just one of those things. It's like, I get this is what you're testing for, but like I didn't take that grade seriously because I know I didn't put any effort
Yeah.
into this exam to do it.
No. I'm with you. What was it like growing up in New York? Because, you know, from my perspective, you know, New York is like it's you know the city. You know what I mean? From my perspective, you know, and I don't know what other people from around the world think about London. And obviously, I don't live in
Mm.
London, but as a whole, but like, what is it like growing up in New York, of all places?
Um, it was very interesting. I My experience with New York was very weird, I would say,
Okay.
considering that like I remember when I was younger, I lived in Bushwick, New York, in Brooklyn. I remember that being a very big part of my life as I've gotten older, but like I remember my only like first like vivid memory I remember is me living in Bushwick when 9/11 happened. You know what I mean? I remember it starting it from there, and then it just everything else. It was just a crazy experience to like experience New York the way it did because I've seen it like kind of flourish like my neighborhood, and then it kind of died down, and then it got gentrified, and it just changed as a whole. So I've
Yeah.
seen the entire change from it. But I remember growing up, like it was just a regular New York experience for me, I would say. I know that sounds weird considering like no
Of
people who
course.
haven't lived in New York
Yeah.
don't really know what I'm talking about, but it was like people fighting in trains, shootouts, stabbings, like that. That was just normal for me. That was normal for me to hear about. A lot of gang violence, a lot of stuff in schools. Yeah, it was just a normal part of life when you heard about it. But it's not like I was watching it every day, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
just hear about it and you're like so used to it off the back of your head. And for you, it just doesn't really.
You're like, oh yeah, that
The,
happened again.
yeah, exactly. But yeah, it was a pretty surreal experience because I got to see the city differently. Like I lived in New York all my life, never went to the Statue of Liberty, but I went to other different places in New York City. That like growing up, it's just and you also got to see like different vibes from different boroughs. So like I grew up in Brooklyn, but if I went to go visit my family in the Bronx, it's an entirely different vibe, even though we're so close to one another.
Yeah.
So it was actually very interesting, like experiencing that growing up. But the biggest thing I'm grateful for growing up would be like how culturally different uh, I was around many different people from different backgrounds. That's one thing that I will forever be grateful for because I got to see different cultures. I got to see the way people not only viewed life but how they went about certain things during life, especially since we were living in the same city. I got to learn a lot of different things I don't think I would have learned from school. In regards like that about people's nations, their culture, their history, just the way they perceived their view about things. Yeah, so a lot of that stuff I was very grateful for growing up because it changed my perspective on how I viewed things. Like I remember when I was younger, life for me was very black and white, but experiencing that when I was growing up made me view the world as gray more than anything else. Like life isn't as black as white as like people would like it to be. It's completely gray. It's multifaceted. And yeah, that's one thing I'm very grateful for. Like my experience growing up in New York.
Mm. No, I'm
I've
with you.
also played a lot of video games. That I also remember.
Mm.
I remember playing basketball a lot, even though I sucked at it. I was terrible at basketball. Baseball as well, fun. I sucked at it, terrible at it. And then American football was another one. Uh, fun. I sucked at it. Never was never really good in any of those sports.
No, I'm with you. Like, because like when I think of New York, and obviously I've never been, you know, it's one of my favorite cities, and places. You know what I mean? In general,
Yeah.
you know, from my perspective, and again, I've never seen it in person, but like it's like amazing. You know, you've got the main places, you know, which is obviously central, and then you know the big buildings and this and that. But
Yeah.
I guess if you grow up there, and obviously you'll be able to correct me if I'm saying anything wrong, but like you get used to that, like
Yeah, you do.
it's the same with like certain things, like the city I live in, nothing like New York, obviously,
Yeah.
but like we have a cathedral, right?
Right.
That's just, yeah, it's a cathedral. You know what I
Right.
mean? But if a foreigner or someone that's never seen it before, they're like, "Whoa," you know what I mean? I guess it's
Right.
the same with like the Eiffel Tower. You know, if you always see it,
Right.
it's like, yeah, that's the Eiffel Tower. You know what I mean? Rather
Right.
than, you know, I'd be like, you know, so is that just how it is? Because you're so used to it. It's
Yeah. Yeah, that's how it is for me. Like I remember like when I have some family members that aren't from New York come to New York that want to go to the Empire State Building or the
yeah, of course.
42nd Street. And I'm just there like, oh, that's a bit mid to be honest with you. Like it's okay. But like I'm used to it. I probably see it every day. So for
Yeah,
me, I'm just yeah, it's one of those things for me. I think there's more interesting places outside of the regular spots, especially with how vast Manhattan is. You would find different spots. You would see different cultures. It's actually one of the greatest things about this city, in my opinion.
like being from there, I don't know if you get offended. Well, I know you won't get offended, but people from there might get offended. But would you say New York is overrated?
Overrated in one sense.
Is in like from a Brit's perspective, like again, it's the, you know, going to see the Central, going to the Garden, obviously going to see the Memorial, obviously after Twin Towers, the Empire State Building, like you said, Statue of Liberty. Like again, as a tourist, as a
Mm,
foreigner to your country,
right.
that's what I would do. But again, like you said, because you were there and you're used to all of this stuff and so on, like, would you say it's overrated? Because me personally, I would say London is overrated. Totally different thing, but that I
Right.
personally, you know what I mean? But that's
I,
because I'm
I
used
I I would personally say if you're only gonna go to New York to see those spots, then it's overrated. Yes.
to. Okay.
But you need to branch out of those spots. There's much better spots, and it's not about really the spots that makes New York so great. Yes, it is the spots, but it's sometimes it's just about the neighborhoods you go to just to get food. Something as
Yeah.
simple as that is what makes New York, in my opinion. Whether you want to go to Queens and try South American food or Central American food, that's going to be your business. If you want to go to like parts in Brooklyn to try whether like Guyanese food, Jamaican food, or even Italian food, that is what I feel like you should do the experience. Or if you want to go to Chinatown, whether the one in Queens or in the city, that I feel like you should put more effort into those experiences as well, instead of just seeing sights, in my opinion.
No, I hear you. I hear you. I understand.
Mm.
Because obviously, as a tourist, that's what you would do. Like,
Yeah,
you'll
yeah,
go in there to see the sights. You know what I mean?
yeah.
that's why I think London, Paris, New York, all of these places are so busy because that's what people are doing. You know what I mean?
Right.
Trying
But
to
like, I'm not gonna sit here and tell you to spend the whole day in 42nd Street. You're gonna waste your time, in my opinion. Like,
yeah.
there's much better things to do.
No. I'm with you. How old were you when 9/11 happened?
I was 5 to 6 years old. I remember
Five.
being in kindergarten when it happened.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, was there like, again, you were super young, so you might not be able to answer this, but like, was there like a weird energy like around it? Because obviously that was a monumental thing in world history, let alone yourself.
Yes, it was a very weird environment because I was in class when it happened. And for me, I started noticing the weird energy once I started seeing kids leaving one by one, like slowly but surely. And I was there like, wait, what's happening? Like,
Yeah.
it's like 9 a.m. It's like almost 10 a.m. Like,
Yeah.
why are people leaving this early? And I just remember the teacher telling us like, oh, well, it's because they all have like dentist appointments. Obviously, at this point, you're just trying to like make sure the kids are not
Yeah, you're not
scared.
gonna scare
So
the
like,
kids. Yeah.
yeah. So like that, I understand, but still something I remember clicking me that it was just weird. And then I remember my mom picking me up, and then I just remember my mom picking me up, and we were like speed walking like crazy. Not really like sprinting, running, but we were like jogging back home. And I'm just there like, what is going on?
Yeah, like
Like did this
when mum normally picks me up, it's chill and
right? Yeah, it's like what is going on? And I just remember going home, and then I just remember my dad coming home later from work, like at night, and I just remembered them looking at the TV, like they were glued to the TV for so long, and I didn't really understand it, and it kind of like feared me, but it also became the catalyst for why I see things the way I see it now,
of
and
course.
why I like specific subjects now. Like it played a very big role in my life. I just remember seeing the news, and then I just remember seeing like basically the damage, like when it was everything was like said and done. I remember seeing like the FDNY, the firefighter department in New York. Just remember them trying to like clear all the rubble in the news and stuff. But I remember the one thing I do remember that I'll never forget for the rest of my life is that where we lived at an apartment, and one of the windows there's a fire escape, which means like if a fire happens, we're supposed to be going down there. I remember like looking at the fire escape out the window, and my mom would be like, "Close the window," like, obviously you don't know what's going on. But I just remember like looking at out there, and I just remember four like military jets flying towards Manhattan. And that at that point, I couldn't process it because you're 5 or 6 years old. Like you don't really know what's going on, and you're just there like, what is going on? And it like when that happened, I didn't understand why it happened, and it bothered me that I didn't understand why it happened. Granted, you're 5 or 6 years old, you're not really supposed to know all this stuff, but for some reason, it bothered me to the point that it's what got me into history. Because like for me, I remember it's like, why did this happen? What happened before that led to this moment? And for me, that's when I got into like as I just said, like with history, and why I looked up the certain things that way I did, and how I ended up seeing the world in a totally different way as I was growing up compared to like the way somebody else would see it, if that makes any
Yeah,
sense.
no.
But it was a very crazy experience. I remember the debris going all the way to where my school was at. Like all the smoke and the dust, it
Mm.
reached all the way to my school was at. That I remember.
But yeah, because
Very.
obviously,
Yeah.
the building obviously failed, didn't it? Or both of them.
Yeah.
That's,
For,
if you think of like, I don't know, I'm trying to think off the top of my head, but like, for instance, if something falls off the wall in your house,
hmm
there's going to be dust. Then again, thinking
Right.
about a fucking building, you know what I mean?
Right.
That's massive, so
Yeah.
no, yeah, well, I don't understand. I'm not going to say I understand, but I try to understand. And obviously, I've
Right.
watched videos of people, again, rest in peace to everybody, of course.
Yeah. For
But
sure.
like people, jumping out of the building and so on and so
Yeah.
forth.
Yeah. It's
That's
crazy
that's
stuff.
why I asked the question because you know, from some, again, would have been super young as well. Obviously, you're a little bit older than me. But like, all I remember is not necessarily the day, but like, I remember when it was like one of the anniversaries, my granddad was watching it, and I didn't understand because like, you don't see shit like that on the TV every day.
Yeah.
He explained it to me, and I was like, huh? And obviously, I was a young child, so I didn't understand it either.
Right.
But like, yeah, that's why I ask, because like something like that happening in the place that you live, you know, that's not.
It's a crazy. No, it's a crazy experience. And the other thing that I was afraid of is how quiet it got after. Granted, I grew up in the city it's the city that never sleeps.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's so like for me, that was my whole life, and then it just went. You could hear like a pen drop for days after, because I just remember not going back to school for days. That I remember. At least for me, when you're young, you probably view time differently, but for me, it felt like days. And I just remember it being quiet, not seeing a single soul out, just nothing. And I just remember my parents being glued to the TV a lot. They were trying to see what was going on, how the country was going to respond to an event like that, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, no, like, and I guess, you know, like you said, obviously you said you could hear a pin drop. That's because obviously that everyone's mourning, aren't they? You know, they're mourning of the, like, what the hell's just happened, you know?
Right. And
not necessarily just the life that have been lost, but like the fact that it's happened in general. You know, like I said, it's not an everyday occurrence that you're going to see such a thing. You know what I mean? And hopefully we don't ever see it ever again.
Yeah, for sure.
But like, yeah, like that is generally why I ask, because in a messed up way to say it, the way I'm going to say it, maybe I should say it in a different way. It's like fascinating in, not in a good light, of course, because again, you don't want things like that to happen. Same with like the London bombings and stuff like that. You don't want anyone to ever lose their life. But like the fact that it did happen, and then the fallout from it, and so on and so forth.
Right. That's fascinating in itself.
Yeah.
At least for me.
Yeah. No. For me as well. Obviously, I'm not a historian like yourself.
Right.
You know, like I said, I have watched documentaries of this and that and so on. And then obviously years prior, you go into the conspiracy theories and all of this, which we're not going to get into, but in general,
of course.
You know,
yeah, for sure.
But like for someone that actually lives there, and you know, that's your home. You know what I mean? Doesn't matter whereabouts in New York you live. If it's Brooklyn, it's whatever. Like New York is New York. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like, yeah, that to me it's bonkers. Absolutely bonkers. That's why
and that's one thing I really enjoyed, like not really enjoyed about the event, but one thing I enjoyed about my upbringing is that like my parents, they were very helpful for me, like helping me process my emotions, because you're a kid at this age. Like no kid should have to go through that. You know what I mean? Like something like that. So like my parents, they were very well, and they were very well in like trying to teach me on why things the way they occur in the world, and like their view in the world, and how it's much more complicated than the way I just see it on the news. And like for that, I would always be grateful for my parents about. And yeah, and it became one of those things where like I was very grateful for them, because they were able to like calm my fears, but also guide me to more than just that event, but to life itself, which is I like, obviously, like I get very emotional talking about it, but it was it was like a very fundamental moment for my upbringing, and like for that's something I'll never forget. But like I said, it was a very dark moment. It was bad, but I still found positives from it regardless.
Yeah. And it kind of shaped you in that sense.
Yeah, for sure.
I think it's probably the same with a lot of other people, you know, in the city in general. You know what I mean? And yeah, like my and again, this has nothing to do with me, but my granddad knew someone that passed in the thing.
Oh, damn.
Because my granddad, again, not even trying to make it about me, but he wasn't in the army, but he was on like the camp gates. Like he was into, like he was in that. So like he's it was normal for him to see Prince Harry when Harry was in
Right.
the Jets and stuff, which still to me to this day, I know we've just gone on a mad spiral. One, we're talking about New York
Right.
9/11, and now we're talking about Prince Harry. But
Right.
like he was on the thing, and I'm like, did you have a gun? He's like, yeah. I'm like, huh? You know, we don't hear about guns like you guys do, you know, in America.
Yeah. Yeah.
So like, yeah, like he knew someone in that gone from UK over there for something. Again, I don't know. I've never
Right.
asked. Don't want to ask because his friend passed. You know, I don't want
Yeah. Yeah.
to
It's
ask
a
that
bit of a
question.
tough conversation.
But yeah, like again, just crazy, absolutely crazy. And you're again World War II. You know, you're massively into. So, you know, even
Yeah.
like that, like I'm sure there's someone of your family that would have been in that. I'm sure there's someone in my
Uh,
would have been in it.
I knew a neighbor that I grew up with that I think served in World War II. I could be wrong, but if I remember correctly, he did serve in World War II, and he was part of the invasion of Normandy or D-Day, which
Yeah.
that's just bunker in itself.
Mhm.
But yeah, it's actually a bit crazy. Like in terms of like my experience with like 9/11, the craziest one that I've heard was I took a class with somebody who was a doctor, and I don't remember her name. I feel so bad, but I remember her telling us that she was running towards the towers falling. She was a doctor at the point, and she just remembers going and running towards that. Like her stories about it are gnarly. Like even after she was there at the center when they were trying to see if anybody was still alive being dug up, so she could just be there right then and there. So she's a doctor, just to
Yeah.
like make sure they were okay. It's like stuff like that is just crazy, crazy
And
stories.
I think that's the thing as well, isn't it? Like, obviously, we're saying it shaped you from obviously young, but like the
Yeah,
fact that like there were people, like I think that shows character in the fact that like firefighters and so on were running towards a building, like,
right,
to help people. You know what I mean?
right,
Their life to help people. Like you hear about people like trying to get people out of cars and shit. You know what I mean?
right,
Not a freaking building that's coming down. You know what
right.
I mean? So yeah, no, fully, I'm with it. But on history as a whole, obviously you said that obviously that got you into history as one part. But what is it
Yeah,
about
for sure.
history that is your jam? Because like I like certain histories and so on. Like was speaking
Right.
to you earlier off camera. I was talking about like Pablo Escobar and so on and so forth.
Right.
Which I find mesmerizing in the sense of like how certain things happen. But like, what
Yeah.
is it about history that is like your jam in that sense?
For me, and I know this sounds very dismissive, and I apologize if I offended everyone, but it is human history is the greatest story ever told. I
Okay.
don't. There is no movie or like book that could top our history. And I'm not just talking about like US. I'm talking about world history, like
World history.
human history. Like for me, I got into it because A, I was younger and because of certain events, but I couldn't believe the way some moments in history happened. And I couldn't believe that it was real that it happened, if that makes any sense. Like when I was younger and I was reading about World War II, I couldn't process that in my head. Like a global conflict that occurred, I couldn't process something like that happening in real life, but it did. And that's what I find fascinating about it. Even if you go back in time, the siege of Constantinople, 1453, that I couldn't believe happened the way it did, especially with Mehmed II and the things he did to take over Constantinople. Like that, I find fascinating. The American Revolution,
Yep.
bro, it was a piss pot army full of farmers and people who weren't better than the British military at the time, but they still fought them and
Yeah.
they came out on top. Like that's crazy to me. Like for me, it's not that I see it from a story sense, but sometimes I do because it helps me process the information
Yeah.
better.
I
Because for
understand.
like a lot of people, they get thrown off by history because it could be boring, because the dates are confusing. I gotta memorize dates, this, and that. But the way I always saw it was like I just saw it as a story, and I try to connect the stories together. Like, all right, if I did let's say like if I was reading about the American Revolution for like in my head, I'd be like, okay, like so this story takes place before World War II, but after the Crusades. and I was able to like pinpoint it there. And I kind of like when I was growing up reading about all these different things, like I enjoyed it because it not only did it stimulate my brain, but it made me put things in a timeline order. And that's what I loved about it more than anything else. Like, dude, I remember being a nerd and like having a notebook. I was just doing timelines, and I was just writing things down just because I was just interested, and I was interested in learning about different things. But I would say this: I'm much more interested in history outside of the United States than in the United States. Like we have an interesting history. There's a lot of interesting stuff that you could read about. There's also a lot of dark stuff in our history that I don't feel like our country talks about enough that it should, because we need to acknowledge a lot of the dark stuff that happened in this nation, in my opinion. Instead of like throwing it under the rug and act as if like that happened so long ago when it didn't. Um, it's history outside of the United States was much more fascinating to me because I've never been there before, and I'm seeing the world in that lens of like historical meaning. And some of the stuff that you like read about is like fascinating, whether it's like the Roman Empire, the rise of like Islam, and like and how they were able to spread in the Middle East against the Persians and the Romans, or like even Alexander the Great. Like his story is crazy. If you read about his story, you just hear like he did all this in 32 years old. That's mad. All of that is crazy for me.
Mhm.
So like I was much more interested in history outside of the United States because it made me see how these nations developed, what became of them, and it also helped me understand the present, which is the biggest thing that I love about history. Because as much as it is an understanding of the like a lot of people think history is just like, oh, you're just doing it to learn the past. It's much more than that. It's also to have an understanding of the present and why things are the way they are. And yeah, so like that is I I love that shit. I'm sorry. It just it's just the coolest subject ever, and I would die on that hill.
No, and I think, you know, we won't go necessarily into this wormhole just yet, but do you think that's
Right.
one of the reasons why you like Star Wars? Because that is very
Yeah.
historic as well. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
You know, you see all of the series now, like Andor. Obviously, I'm not going to mention anything about it because people might still not have
Mhm.
watched it. But like Rogue One happened, then they do the
Yeah.
backstory. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
without
Yeah.
Rogue One happening, if you haven't watched it, that's your fault. That film's been out for years. But like as
Yeah.
a whole, if like Rogue One happened, if that doesn't happen and what happens in that film doesn't happen, then they don't find the plans to destroy the Death Star.
Right.
You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
And
So
it's
like that again is to do with history, and then you know you see all of the series and so on coming out now. So
yeah.
what would you say? Because obviously you spoke about certain things that you find interesting, but people are going to see this episode and they're going to see straight away what's on the wall. What is it about
Mhm.
Japanese history and Asian history as a whole that gets you?
I would say like with the feudal Japan period, it's just the insanity of it. I know that sounds I know that sounds very dark and grim, but it's the insanity to have like that feudal world. You have your samurai, you have your peasants, you have your merchants, and then that whole political intrigue between the shogun and the emperor. Because the emperor was above the shogun, but people respected the shogun more. You know what I mean? It's like that whole political intrigue with it. What I found interesting, and I guess this is a bit of a New York, I guess me speaking, but a lot of feudal Japanese history just reminds me of like gangs vying for power.
Okay.
That's
Yep.
just that's just how I saw it. Obviously, that's not. Well, some people might take offense into that, and I'm sorry, but it's like the way I viewed it in my head growing up. It was like, okay, like this group is trying to gain power so they can take control of Japan, or this group was also trying to take power. But the biggest thing that was interesting to me is like, even though it was one small island, I mean, it's small compared to the United States where I grew up at, there were not only so many different clans, but how different these clans were,
Mm.
how their upbringings in life, how they saw the world, how some had different specialties, how some were better than others, how each of those pieces played such a big part in the puzzle for the unification of Japan later on. That is what I find interesting. Some of the like some of the shoguns, some of the samurai, some of the stories, like the 47 Ronin story. It's it's not a story, but it's an historical event that occurred where a lot of these guys, they were very loyal, and like a lot of people might say like toxic loyal, but that loyalty that they had for not only honor but for their clan, that stuff I find fascinating. It's so interesting to me to like know that so many people were so loyal to certain causes that they were willing to die before dishonor their
Mm.
causes. That stuff is just that stuff is so crazy to me. But I think it's interesting.
Yeah, no, and like I love Asian culture as a whole. Not necessarily any particular one, but like
Right,
uh, my missus is from or my fiance, whichever way you want to say it, is from Thailand. So like when she's showing me certain things, I'm like,
right,
whoa, and then
yeah,
we've been to when they have a festival over in the UK. Unfortunately, we haven't gone to Thailand with, I mean, me. Obviously, she has.
right,
Like, but like the temples and stuff, it's like, holy moly, what I mean?
yeah, yeah,
Like, and
dude,
yeah, that whole culture with the samurai swords and so on, what I mean? It
dude.
is mad.
I I know this sounds weird, and like me and you have these conversations, but like I'm somewhat religious. I don't really, I don't really like fanatically follow a religion, but I remember when I went to Japan and I went to all these temples, all these shrines, bro, I felt at peace. Like I can't really describe it. It just felt peaceful. It felt like unlike anything I've ever encountered before. Granted, it may be different considering like when I went there, I was in a very low point in my life.
Okay.
So like I'm probably seeing the different, but I just remember peace. That's all I could describe. Like when you see all those things in real life, all those temples that you were talking about, all those shrines, it's just peace. It's such a peaceful thing.
No, no, I'm with you. And why? Bit of a backwards question, but why did you want to go to Japan to
Oh, I
see?
was I was yeah, yeah. Like I was a big fan of their history.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then obviously like their pop culture, like Pokemon and stuff. But like for me, it was more than their history, much more than anything else on why I went over there and I enjoyed it.
Because I'm definitely jealous. Like, I'm not even gonna lie, straight up. Like, yeah,
Yeah,
if I ever become rich, which hopefully God willing, if there is a higher power out there, will happen. Um,
right.
I'm gonna do a tour of Asia as a whole. Because I want
Yeah, yeah, dude.
I want to go to because I feel like going to Japan would be amazing. Don't get it twisted, but then
Right.
coming all the way back to the UK, like, no, you could say that kind of about Europe, but that's closer. That's only like
Yeah,
a flight, for me,
right.
because obviously I'm in the UK. But like, if I was to go across the world, I want to see all of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Japan,
Yeah,
China, Vietnam, so on and so forth, Thailand, so on.
right.
You know what I mean? Um, but yeah, no, that whole culture and so on. I'm with you on. Obviously, you're way more into it than I am, but like as a
Right.
whole, samurai and you know
Yeah.
swords and like I said, the culture and like the respect factor as well. Like there is
Yeah.
many people, they don't have a weapon without defending themselves or whatever the thing would be, but
Right.
there is actually respect in that thing as well, which
Right.
in the modern day you hear of people shooting or stabbing people and so on.
Right.
Like there is no respect there, but like in
Yeah.
their culture back then, obviously it's way back, but
Right.
like there was respect. Obviously they were still doing a madness, but
Right. Right.
like they were doing it in a, well, not in a respectful way, but like their culture, you know what I'm trying to say, like
Mhm.
in that aspect of like, yeah, you kind of get what I'm trying to
No,
say.
I know. I understand where it's like it's very much normalized because that was just how it was.
Yeah.
The way they ended up seeing things at the time. So I agree with you because I was just about to say before you said it, I was like, but also they had a lot of crazy stuff
Mm.
during that period. Like they were moving wild, but That's what I also enjoyed, like the respect that they had behind it. How there was honor. Honor was such a big thing.
Oh no, yeah, that's the word
Was
I was looking for.
yeah,
Yeah,
which was like yeah, like that fascinated me because it's like I said, growing up the way I grew up, that wasn't really it's not really a thing I would say. Not as much compared to what it was back then, but there's certain stories behind it, like the stuff you hear, it's just fascinating to me. And like for a lot of people, I always tell them it's like if you're just not into history or if you just want to read about the samurai period, read the it's this thing that an old friend of mine recommended it to me. In which he was very good to recommend this to me, and it's called Vagabond, and it is a manga, and it's supposed to be about Miyamoto Musashi and his story. Miyamoto Musashi, he wrote the Book of the Five Rings. It's like the sword silent book, very phenomenal. But there is a manga about him, and that takes place during feudal Japan. It takes place after the Battle of Sekigahara in 1600, and that story in itself, it's the most fascinating story, and but it's real. It's a real event. Things happen, but like the manga behind it, it's just phenomenal. It would change you as an individual, I would say.
no, I'm with you. But what was like? Obviously, I understand the cultural, and the temples and so on. But like, what was like? How long were you in Japan when you went?
I was there for 10 days when I
10 days.
went.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah,
So what
yeah, yeah.
what was that like? Like,
Tokyo was very fascinating, man. It was just so awesome. It's everything you loved about a city, and I lived in New York all my life,
yeah,
so
of
it's like
course.
for
Yeah,
me,
yeah.
it was it was like the nightlife was awesome. You like people were just going out drinking, passing out on the floor. Like nobody was robbing these individuals. They would just let them sleep on the floor. It's the craziest stuff. Dude, when you go to a bar over there, like I don't really drink. I'm not much of a drinker, but I was like, damn, these guys, I might want to be a drinker tonight because like these guys, they could party and it's a surreal experience. A lot of restaurants when you go over there, dude, believe it or not, if you're like a loner, if you're like an introverted person, you don't want to speak to people, there's a lot of restaurants that cater to that, like introverted experience. So it is a pretty dope thing. The shopping school, the video games, the arcades that they have, phenomenal. It is, yeah, it like Tokyo was a phenomenal experience. I only wish I got to enjoy the nightlife more. That's my only regret.
No. I'm with you. Wait, isn't it? Is it Tokyo that's got that really big long crosswalk? Is that Tokyo?
Uh,
I think that's Tokyo.
not,
No,
I don't think it's Tokyo. I can't think of what you're of a crosswalk.
because I know that they both walk at the same time, don't they? And it's like I can't think of what I'm trying to say.
I can't really think of a crosswalk.
Uh,
Oh, Shibuya, I think. You're talking about Shibuya.
yeah, like the road crossing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
there's like all different.
Yeah, 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 yeah. So you're talking about Shibuya. Yeah, I've been to Shibuya. I don't know. I have a very negative experience with it because I grew up in New York. It just reminded me of a Japanese 42nd Street. It
Oh,
just reminded me of a Times Square. So like for me, I wasn't really impressed by it. But there's other parts of Tokyo that I thought were phenomenal. Um, I would totally recommend the other parts. Like yeah, sure, Shibuya is cool, but there's other parts, man, phenomenal. It's just awesome as hell. Like the 47 Ronin story happened in Tokyo, and I went to the temple where they cut the guy's head off and they dumped it like in a tub of water, and they still have that tub of water. It's there. Like that's a bit crazy, bro. It's just that's a bit mad. Like you have stuff like that. The temple itself is just awesome. Like you have cool things like that. And then I would say though the Pokemon centers, those are that is very good experience. I highly recommend as a Pokemon fan myself.
because they take that very seriously, don't they? Like
Yeah,
that's
yeah. Those stores are pretty baller, bro. That's where I ended up getting the two plushies that I showed you of like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Lugia and Style. I was like, yeah, these guys, they're serious about their stuff.
No, what's like the not their money, but like, is it expensive over there or not?
Not for me. It was not expensive for me. It was crazy cheap. I think the most money I spent was getting the ticket to go over there.
Okay.
The food was dirt cheap when I went over there, and it was just what you were getting and how fresh the food was. It was you were just there like this is just crazy. The 7-Elevens, listen, you got to go to the 7-Elevens over there because they're not the same 7-Elevens. The family marts, you have to go over there. They're not the same. And then the museums over there, they just slaughter the museums here. I'm sorry. It's the only thing I didn't like about the museums over there is that you couldn't take pictures. You couldn't take pictures. That bothered me so much because there's this museum I went to that's about one of a samurai shogun. I think it's like Ieyasu or something. And he had the gnarliest samurai armor I've ever seen. His armor had different pieces at different points of different countries at that point, where traveling wasn't really normal at that point. So
Mhm.
he will have like the chest plate of like conquistador, like a Portuguese like armor. He had the helmet of a samurai. He'll have like these Ming Dynasty like cuffs on. It was the most like it felt like if you were playing Call of Duty or Fortnite and you were customizing your characters like like equipment. That's what I saw, and I couldn't believe that was a real thing. And it was just beautiful. Some of the katanas they had there that were there for like hundreds of years, and it still looked flawless as if they just made it. Crazy. It's a lot of crazy stuff, dude.
Is it? Do you think the like no pictures, and is that out of respect?
I don't really know what it is. It could be out of respect, or it could be that they want people to go to the museum instead of
Yeah, that
seeing
makes sense.
pictures.
Yeah, yeah,
Maybe I don't really know. But the one thing I very much enjoyed over there was getting the Goshen stamps, which is like you visit this temple and you get a stamp that you visited the temple, and it's in a book. Let me see if I can get you the book right now. But
Well,
it's it was dude. I traveled so much for this, but it was one of the most rewarding things I've ever done on my trip over there. So this is the book. It's a Goshen book. And with this book, you end up visiting different temples, different shrines, and you can get stuff stamped. You can get like calligraphy done. You can get stuff like stamped and put on your book. But like for me, you go to a temple and a person would with like an ink,
mhm,
like they
mhm.
would do all the calligraphy and then stamp this at the end. And it's just by the way, you could open the book like an accordion.
Whoa,
And like each one of these places is a different shrine or temple that I went to. And dude, I was doing like 10,000 steps like almost every day going to different temples. And it just keeps on going and
that's
keeps
sick.
on going. And it's like this different designs, more designs, and it's crazy. And then you get like other books that I could just show you. Let me just close this.
No worries.
That I very much enjoyed because I ended up going to one of Miyamoto Musashi's sites in Kyoto, and I ended up going to that temple, and I'll talk more about it, but I thought it was phenomenal. And it's like certain pieces where he allegedly fought with two katanas, and he was known for it. But then you get things like this, where when you go to the temple, it just
That's sick.
and it's just like him training with a katana in the bottom, and it's like stuff like this that's just it's like that was one of my biggest favorite memories going to Japan was this sense of adventure just going around to random temples, dude,
Mm.
and like trying to get the book stamped. Like it made me feel like a kid again, believe it or not. It was one of the weirdest things ever,
Was
but
it
I
kind of like
enjoyed
an
it.
adventure?
Well, yeah, it honestly, dude, it felt like an adventure. Like me going to all these different temples and like getting stuff stamped out. I would have rather done that than like go to like a mall and buy stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it was one of those things that I enjoyed and I had the time in my life doing it. But those temples, I would recommend anybody to do that. Like, I know, like, I'm going back to Japan. I've told myself that. Like, I've already set that in stone. Like, after my first trip, I have to go back.
Hmm.
I know if I go back, I'm going to a different part, and I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm just gonna go temple
That's
hunting.
what I was. That was literally going to be the
Yeah,
follow up for what you just said. Like,
yeah.
is there things you not necessarily missed, but like for instance, totally different. But I'll be quick. Like when we first went to Munich, Germany. Obviously, I went to the Allianz Arena, went to the Martin Plaza, which is the main shopping place, and so on and so forth. But then when I went back the
Right,
second time, because I've already done that stuff, I wanted to see other things. So I went to see,
yeah,
the Cafe Rosette, which is where Bayern Munich were formed, which is
right,
the pillar with the thing and so on and so forth that was in that video. You know what I mean? So is there
right.
like certain things? Obviously, Japan is freaking massive, obviously, but like,
Yeah.
is there certain things that you not necessarily missed, but that you want to go and see that you didn't when you went?
I feel like there's a lot that I missed that I wanted to do. I wanted to go to Osaka to see the samurai castle in Osaka. Um, I also wanted to go to the Battle of Sekigahara, which is like this plain field that they had this battle. That's one thing I wish I would have done. The next thing is Mount Fuji.
Mm-hmm.
One thing that I was planning to do, I bought tickets to do and everything. I was gonna hike the whole mountain all the way up to the top.
Damn.
Yeah, I had that, and that's like a 2 day thing, and I had it all planned out, but things fell through. I wasn't able to do it, and if I do go back there, I'm doing that. I'm gonna climb that entire mountain. Like, there's no ifs buts about it. Like, I'm dedicating 2 whole days to doing that. 'Cause that's just something that I want to do personally,
Of course. Yep.
and yeah, it's just something I always wanted to do. So it's like if I do go back there, that's exactly what I'm doing.
No. I'm with you. I'm with you fully. Um, we could speak all day about this.
Hmm.
Fully. But I want to speak. One thing. Go on. Go on.
Sorry, I just
No,
want to
no.
say two more things.
Yeah.
The beach. I would go back there to go to the beach because I saw the beach for like 5 minutes max, and it looked like the most peaceful thing I've ever seen in my life.
Okay.
And there was just no people there, nothing. It was just the waves. I remember the sky being pink because of the sunset. It was one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen in my life, and I think I would go back there for that and to go to an island where Miyamoto Musashi fought somebody else, and they have like a statue about it and stuff. I'll show it to you after, but it's
Yeah,
like
yeah,
pretty
yeah,
dope.
yeah. No,
Yeah,
that sounds. Again, like I said, like
yeah,
hopefully one day I'll be able to, go and
yeah,
see certain things. You know what I mean?
yeah.
I'm
Right
sure.
now I'm devoted to school, but once I'm done with school, oh, best believe I am running rampant.
No, I hear it. I hear it fully. But one thing I don't think I've ever asked, and I don't think I have. Thinking about it, why are you a Bayern fan?
Oh yeah, sure. So like watching football, I started watching it in the 2006 World Cup. So when I got into the sport, I got into it through the national
Yeah,
like teams first, and then I got into club football. My dad's a different story. He's been watching AC Milan for years, so like he watches it as well, not as much as me, but from time to time. And what got me into Bayern specifically was I decided to like sit down and watch like or get into club football. Because before I saw it, but it was like highlights. I was really a neutral.
hmm
I didn't really support no team, but I remember the first match we sat down for. It was United versus Bayern, and I remember my dad kind of pressured me like, "Hey, listen, you're gonna watch club football now, but whatever team you picked, you can't leave. Like you have to make your decision." And it was like no pressure, and I was like, "Thanks, Dad." And I just remember, and I was like, "Wait, when can I pick?" And he's like, "Well, you're watching the game now. You need to make the decision now. United or Bayern." And I was just like, "Whoa, what? Okay, wait, what?" And it was just like, and do I at least have some time to think? He's like, yep, you got some time to think. And I remember watching Bayern play at this point, and I just remember very much liking the way they played. I was like, oh, this is a pretty dope team. I liked Ribery.
Yeah,
I like
yeah.
Robin. Like
Was
that I remember them two playing.
that game, was that the Old Trafford game when Robin scored
Yes.
from the corner?
Yeah. So that was the first. That was
Yeah,
the first goal I've seen. Is that
black kid,
Robin
right,
volley? Yeah. Yeah. It was the black
and
kid.
he's
I
running.
remember watching. Yes, I remember watching that, and I remember like getting up from my couch. And I was like, "Oh my God!" I was like being a mark. I was like being a mark about it, and I was just like nerding out after that volley. And I was just there like, "No, I'm a Bayern fan. That's it." And the rest was just this. And that's how I became a Bayern fan, and I never left since. So yeah, I got to see a lot of interesting things. I saw a lot of downs, but a lot of ups. So I can't
Yeah,
really complain.
that's crazy. So, why of all games was it that game that your dad was like, pick a team?
I don't really know. Honestly, I think he probably put more thought into it than I did. I just remember being a kid coming out of school, and then he was like, "Yo, pick." And I was like, "Huh? Like what? What do you
Nah,
mean?"
I
But
think your dad's a wizard, bro. I think he's seen that United downfall coming, bro, and wanted you to be a United fan.
maybe who knew? But I remember talking to him. I was like, "Hey, I want to get into club football because I'm very interested in that." FIFA came out. And I remember playing FIFA, and I was like, "Oh, okay, like these teams look very interesting to me."
Yeah,
And yeah, and then like the World Cup happened, like the 2010 World Cup, and that's when like my love for the sport went from here, and it just flew on high. And I remember seeing Thomas Muller, and I thought it's weird because like I remember him starting for Bayern, and then he left, and it's like I feel like I grew up watching, like I
yeah,
genuinely grew up watching him. But I remember in the World Cup 2010, he was the player that I fell in love with the most. Him and then Diego Forlan for Uruguay. Those two in that World Cup, oh man, they were such a joy to watch. And yeah, I remember my dad telling me to pick, and I was like, all right, I'm picking Bayern. I'm sorry.
what a game
And
as well with that goal, man.
yeah.
I
The
think
game
that,
ended like 3-2 or something.
yeah,
I forgot what was the thing, but it was a gnarly game. And that like watching that game is what got me into club football. Like that match sold it for me. But then
no,
like obviously like once I got into it, my dad was like showing me old games. Like he
yeah,
was catching me up, and that's when I started watching all these things. He caught me up with like AC Milan when they were like crazy teams, like disgusting. Um, he called me up with Zinedine Zidane, in which, like I said, I saw the 2006 World Cup, so I saw him at his end. But he's the one that made me fall in love with the sport when I started watching the World Cup.
So who's your
So my
so,
dad,
so for anyone that's, sorry to interrupt you, for anybody
yeah,
that's doesn't know too much about you or hasn't seen any of the content we've done
hmm
before, who is your favorite player of all time?
oh Zinedine Zidane, he is
Okay.
that man made me fall in love with the sport. That guy, he is phenomenal. I don't care if it's bias, corruption. That man's the greatest. I don't really care what anybody tells me. But yeah, he's the one that made me fall in love with the sport. But my dad was like, "Look, this is him old. Have you seen him when he was younger?" And I was like, "What are you talking about?" And I remember watching all like Zidane's old clips, and I remember marking out. I was like the biggest mark you could find, like the shortest, chubbiest mark. Like, oh my God, he's done it. He's done it. And it's just like, yeah, I was just marking out for Zinedine Zidane. But then he also showed me United, Arsenal, like Chelsea under Mourinho. Um, but yeah, I didn't see Bayern until later on. I didn't see Bayern until like 2010, 2009, and it just yeah, like I just remember seeing many things. I remember seeing El Clasico. I remember the whole Luis Figo thing because my dad was just very into that at that point, and yeah, it was pretty fascinating. But I'm glad I got to see that match with United because it was a good match to get into. Yeah.
I think that's got to be one of Robin's best ever goals in a Bayern shirt.
Yeah, dude,
I think the most
uh,
important goal was the final one
for
against
sure.
Dortmund because he won us the
Yeah,
after the year.
yeah, for sure. And he
But
needed that based off the penalty against Peter
of
Check
course,
in the
yeah,
previous one.
100%. And he was so good that year as well. He
Yeah,
single-handedly destroyed Barcelona in that 7-0.
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
yeah, slapped them a new one. And then obviously to get that goal, and actually in that season as well, You know, in a the Classica game, Subotic ran up to him, laughed,
and got to his side. Yep.
And then, like, when he went round everyone, Subotic was the guy that would drop down to his knees. Like,
Yeah. I remember all that, yo. Stuff was crazy. Blachowski, the Poland guy from
yep. They had
all that stuff.
What's the one that begins with a P? Pishak?
Yeah.
Yeah. Obviously, their goalkeeper was a London fella.
Yeah.
That was a good team. That team knocked out Real Madrid. Wow, that was a freaking team.
Yeah, that was a good team. And that's one of my favorite finals. I know that's biased considering that what it is, but it's a Der Klassiker final. How many times was I going to get that in my lifetime? Slim to none. Especially in the Champions League. Yeah. That was, I was never going to see that again.
And it's like, it wasn't even the way that it was like a scammy win either. You know what I mean?
No.
They absolutely smashed Real Madrid a new one to get to that final. And we absolutely smashed Barca. You know what I mean?
Right. So, for sure. Yeah.
It was the two best teams in the world at that particular time.
Yeah.
And then obviously Bayern come out on top. So yeah, Dortmund hold that. But yeah, no. Other than that, Star Wars. You want to? I know you want to talk about Star Wars.
Listen. I'm only going off your time, good sir. So
no, we could quite literally. People will think we're exaggerating, but we've done shows on the other channel that have been like 5 hours long. So we could go all night, quite literally talking about everything. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Yes. But like, you know, obviously we mentioned like the history and so on and so forth. But like, what is the thing with Star Wars for you personally? Because obviously it's all to do with a personal preference.
Right. It is. I'm going to divide it into 3 parts.
Okay.
And not only is it a space fantasy, but the political intrigue behind it, the military intrigue behind it, and the religious intrigue behind it. When I mean by religious, I mean the Force, the way certain like people see the galaxy and the lore and stuff. All of that like jumbled up into one thing. It blew my mind when I was younger, and it made me fall in love with it. Especially like you said, like for me, that and history were like hand in hand. And one thing I did like about Star Wars a lot growing up is how many times it rhymed with history. Like there's many points where when George Lucas were doing like the dog fights between the X-wings and like the TIE fighters, it was based off World War II footage with like the Royal Air Force fighting the Luftwaffe during the Blitz. You know what I mean? It's like stuff like that I connected in my head when I was younger, and I fell in love with it. It blew my mind. And the whole thing with the ideology of the Sith and the Jedi, like the way they view the Force, one's like to protect and serve, the other one's to take and for power, and all of that, it blew up my mind, dude. It genuinely blew up my mind, and that's what made me fall in love with it. And the politics behind it, like the most common stormtrooper or the most common rebel soldier, where it's like in the movies they like to like gloss over them, like, oh, these guys are just background characters, but these were 2 different people in 2 different states of the galaxy that saw the galaxy for what it was, and they decided to join the cause that they believed in, and now they're fighting each other over it. And that, like stuff like that, I just loved it. And then the battles themselves, phenomenal. And then the underworld, I really like the underworld of Star Wars, like the Hutts, the gangsters, the bounty hunters, like all that stuff. It made me fall in love with it because it made me also see the modern day world. It was like, oh well, oh, this is very similar to how things happen in real life. And like I was able to make those connections a lot of the time when I was like either playing games, reading about it, watching shows, or even like watching the movies. And yeah, that's it. It's Star Wars is fucking great. That's all I have to say.
Oh no, fully.
Yeah, yeah.
Fully. Do you think though, like again, obviously you know me personally, I'm a Star Wars fan as well, so this ain't against what you're saying or anything like that. But do you think you like Star Wars because you know, like with like the samurai with their swords, you've got lightsaber. Like, do you get
Right. Yeah.
them together?
Yeah, I do. In my mind, I do. It's like, yeah, this makes sense. And George Lucas intended the same way. Like a lot of his stuff with the Jedi and stuff is very similar to
Yeah.
Samurai. It's similar to feudal Japan. The Kurosawa films inspired him a lot with a lot of his stuff. So yeah, it just became like that franchise took inspiration from everything I loved, and it made it into their own thing. And that's what I loved about it. Well, I still do love about it, but yeah.
No, fully. But yeah,
And
you
plus, like
read the classics.
one of the things I would say, like the battles itself was phenomenal, the politics behind it, but the message behind most of the franchise's products was also very detrimental for me and my upbringing. Especially, I would say, would be like with Yoda and Empire Strikes Back, when he's teaching Luke about the Force, and Luke says, "I'll try," and Yoda says, "Do or do not. There is no try." And that stuff, like when I was listening to things like that when I was younger, I was in a very dark place in my life,
Hmm.
and hearing stuff like that was just it lifted me up. It gave me a reason to continue on going. It
Yeah.
gave me inspiration, and like the messages that a lot of these stories have behind it is one of the other reasons why I love it so much. And like any young kid that could watch this, they could take a powerful message from any of it. Whether if they want to watch the Clone Wars, which is phenomenal, if they want to see Rebels, if they want to see Obi-Wan, if they want to see The Mandalorian, they just want to see the movies or even play the video games. You're able to take a very big message from it. Even the Bad Batch. The Bad Batch is phenomenal. One of the best quotes from the Bad Batch is like, "Embrace others for their differences because that's what makes you whole." And that is one of the most strongest things that I've ever heard in my life. And it's something that I totally agree with, and is how I view life. It's like just because you're different, I don't see you differently. I don't really belittle you because of it or anything. I'm interested in it, and I appreciate how different you are as an individual, because at the end of the day, you you open my experience to bigger things, which just makes everything so much better.
No, fully. Because if it was just like you're never going to hear a different
Hmm.
opinion. So you're always going to be
Exactly.
right. You know what I mean? Um,
Right.
but your opinion, like obviously, you can get people out there that think they're always right. But like from
Right.
what you're saying, like if you were to have an opinion, for instance, you think Luke Skywalker's the best Jedi of all time.
Right.
In your head, that's fact. No one can defeat that because no one's going to. But when you like go
Right.
into a debate with me, for instance, I could come back and be like, no, Anakin was, and then we can
Mm.
talk. You know what I mean? Rather than
Right.
just being that one thing. And it's the same with
Right.
everything, isn't it? I think that's
Right. Exactly.
we're not going to get into politics, but that's why politics are a thing. Same
Right.
with football. You know, um,
Yeah.
it's all to do with opinions and so on and so forth. So no, I'm fully with you, and I love Star Wars as well. I told you obviously this, and I'll say it now as well. But I got into it super late. Kind of
Right.
seems to be the freaking thing with me. It was the
Right.
same with football as well. Got into that super late. I actually got into Star Wars because of lockdown. I think that was one of
Oh
the
wow.
only good things about lockdown.
Right.
Lockdown was a bit of a dark place for my family as a whole,
Right.
because and again, this isn't to put limelight on it, but my stepdad's brother passed away due to COVID. Um,
Right. Right.
so like and I'm not going to sit here and pour me or anything like that. Rest in peace to him, of course.
Right.
But like it was weird to have someone pass. You know what I mean? Because I didn't believe it.
Yeah.
I am a conspiracy theorist fully. I'm not going to sit here,
Right.
but I am. So when it was like going on the news, you've got freaking all of the prime ministers and that saying stay in. I'm like, no, like it's all bullshit. But then when it hits your
Right.
family, you know what I
Yeah,
mean? It's totally
it's a
different.
different.
You know what I mean? Which I
For
still do
sure.
think certain things like the media pushed it way too hard. Um,
Right.
yeah, like even with that. So yeah, getting into Star Wars, that was in lockdown. I couldn't go out. You know what I mean? So
Right.
you know, and you'll know this, and I'll say it now for the viewer. I'm a night bird. I'm not an early morning person. So you know, when the my little girl or my missus would go to sleep, what the fuck am I going to do? So I was like, we had Disney Plus at that time as well. So I started.
Oh yeah, so you saw all of them. Yeah.
I did it backwards though. I'm not going to lie. I'll say straight up. I watched Revenge of the Sith first.
I see.
Because I just clicked it. I was like, oh, Star Wars. Clicked it. You know what I mean? Right. And then I watched the one when it was like Anakin. And Anakin, one of the first films where he's obviously a young child, and I was like,
"The Phantom Menace."
Yeah, I was like, "The hell? This guy's a freaking teenager." You know what I mean? Like, what the hell's going on? So then, you know, I actually went and watched it in the right order, and then I was like, okay, fair enough. Because obviously, you know, in these ones, you at the end of that one, he obviously becomes Vader. But because it was made in the modern day, Vader looks totally different to what Vader looked like in those films, like the first. In the
the prequels that you're talking about, I grew up watching them in theaters. So like I went to them when they released in theaters. I remember watching Revenge of the Sith in theaters, and that just like that whole movie when I was younger, watching that as a child. You know that clip of the Lego guy when he's like so mesmerized because he saw somebody? That's how I felt watching that whole movie. And like that movie, when I saw it, it reminded me so much of different points in history. It felt like can I even say? It felt like a nerdgasm in a sense, where it's just like it blew your mind.
Yeah,
it was one of the things. It's like, holy smokes, like this is crazy. I remember watching this movie. I remember my parents taking me to this movie. And I remember my parents taking me to Toys R Us, and I, like, you know, in FIFA when like players have pace, you know, like Mbappe got like 94, 95 pace. I would have dusted him. I had more pace than him running inside Toys R Us to go to a lightsaber than he does as an athlete. I'm convinced.
Now I need to know what color you got.
Oh, I got Anakin's blue. That was the one that I got.
I was thinking green for some reason.
No, I as I gotten older, I do like green, but I went straight to like blue. But I got the Anakin one that it was like you clicked on a button and then it turned red. So it was like blue and red. Yeah.
Oh, that's cool,
dude. I remember getting it, and I was going home, and then I see my older sister. Bro, first thing I got, I just remember it turned it straight to red, and I was already just trying to swing and stuff. Bro, I remember being so hyped. And then, dude, this game, Star Wars Battlefront 2, oh my God. I remember my parents buying me that game because they came out like in October, almost Halloween. I remember my parents picked me up from like after school because like I needed to like focus. And then my dad drew me to like a GameStop. And I remember running in. And like my fat ass at this time was like small. So I was like waddling. And I thought the store was going to close because I really wanted the game. Then my dad comes with me. I was like, Dad, it's that game because I'm still small, so like I'm trying to like point up. I'm like disoriented because I'm fat as shit, so I'm disoriented, losing my breath, and it's like Star Wars game. And this is how I remember, like this is how long ago it was, dude. Because I still have the game. Let me see. There you go. There it is. This is the one that I bought. Dude, I remember buying this game, and it was like $25 new when it came out. Because that's how much games were
back then.
Yeah, back then. And I remember going home. I remember the next day I told my mom, I'm sick. I can't get up. And it's like, I'm panicking. And like my mom was like, all right, you get to stay home. Stay home immediately. Every disease that I had that I told my mom, that left my body the moment she left. Because I just immediately went to my Xbox and I was just playing it. And dude, I remember playing this game, and this game got me into Star Wars even more. I got to play as like a regular clone trooper. I got to like throw grenades at droids and stuff, or like play as the Empire, play as a stormtrooper. It was just this fed my addiction to Star Wars. And not that I'm saying that's a good thing. Yeah, it got me into it as well.
No, like I don't think I definitely haven't played that one. I think one of the first Battlefronts I played was one of the newer ones, not the newest one. Maybe
Mhm.
maybe 2.
Oh, got you. Yeah. Battlefront 2.
But my first ever Star Wars game was Force Awakens.
Oh, yeah. I
With,
like the first Force Awakens. I thought the Force Awakens was great.
like,
I mean,
and
sorry, the Force Unleashed or the Force Awakens? It might be the Force Unleashed you're talking about.
Unleashed. Yeah,
Yeah,
probably.
No. Yeah. The Force Awakens is episode 7, the movie. I caught that way too late. But the Force Unleashed, good game. I remember playing that when it first came out. I remember playing that game when it first came out. I remember buying all the action figures for it. 'Cause, like, they released a whole bunch of action figures for it, and I remember me being out of weight, running to my dad. We need it. This is like there's a whole bunch of like different like imperial characters, and it's
I don't
like,
know
Dad, we
why,
need
but I
it.
could just like imagine a mini you out of breath. I need that one.
This is like that's the one. I need that Shadow Imperial Guard. And then the biggest mistake that my parents have ever done was take me to a comic book store and show me Star Wars comics. Man, when I told you these guys opened my third eye. It's like you know how you levitate? Like you ever seen those clips of levitating? That's how I felt like when my mom took me to go like to read some Star Wars comic books. I bought like a whole bunch when my mom would take me, and I would just read them, and it made me fall in love with the universe even more. Like that just
Blew your mind.
it was amazing. Yeah, it like blew my mind because like some of the comics like they got into like the battles, and it was just like whoa, like this is a very dark comic for like some young chubby kid to read. Like it's a bit mad the stuff that I'm looking at, but it was still cool as hell, and it made me fall in love with the clone troopers. Like the clone troopers were badass in the comics. So I was like, these guys are dope as hell. Like these guys don't have like any force powers. They're not like the quickest people, the strongest, but they were gunning down Jedi in Revenge of the Sith like crazy. You know what I mean? Like these guys were actively fighting against them, and that like I always found them cool as hell. Always found them cool as hell. Plus, there's a certain scene I need to show you because not many people notice it. But in one of the scenes in Revenge of the Sith, it looks like one of the Galactic Marines, which I'll explain later, got shot by Kiadi Mundi because like he deflected a blaster ball, but the dude actually dodged it. Like the guy sensed in a split second that that bolt was gonna go to him, and the dude dodged it. I don't care what type of human you are. That type of decision making, that's not human, bro. That's so quick. It's so instinct that that little moment in the movie, like it's obviously not like a crazy moment, but like when you really think about it, it's one of the craziest things in episode 3.
And while you were speaking, then I was actually thinking about what I said, and I think that's why, like for me personally, in my experience, and again, don't get it twisted. I did when I watched it in lockdown, I did it backwards fully. But
Right,
like
right.
obviously, at the end of Revenge Sith, um, you obviously see Palpatine. Palpatine is Palpatine at that point. So then when
Yeah,
I watched the films back, I'm like, where the hell is he?
yeah.
You know what I mean? So yeah,
He's
I definitely watched him in the wrong way, wrong order.
yeah, he's a very influential character. He has his hands everywhere, even though he's not everywhere, which is crazy. Like he's a part of every little thing, and you kind of see that more in Andor, even though he's not even in it. He's mentioned so many times, and you kind of feel like how terrifying he is to the normal human being, like the normal individual in the Star Wars universe. Like his name itself, it's like already putting fear in so many of the characters' name,
Yeah.
like
What's the
in
ginger
lives. Like,
food?
oh, you're talking about Mon Mothma?
That's it. Yeah, because
Yes, yeah,
when she's obviously talking about certain people, she's like, okay, we can't speak here.
right,
We can't speak here because obviously there's
exactly, yeah.
lies everywhere.
And then in season 2 of Andor, she calls out Palpatine at the end. She's like, he's the biggest monster. Like the biggest monster here is Palpatine. And even then, the moment she says that, she goes back and she tries to run away immediately for saying that. So it's like the type of power that he has, even though the dude's not everywhere. Like his fear is spread out. It's just crazy. It's actually pretty crazy.
No, fully. And then obviously now, recent to when we're recording this right now, they've obviously released the main trailer. Obviously, there was one at Celebration.
Yeah.
For Grogu and Mandalorian.
Mandalorian.
But obviously, they've recently released one, which, by the way, oh my word! If you haven't watched it, go watch it. It looks sick. Like,
yeah.
Obviously, I'm
excited.
I'm fanning out, but like the way he takes down what's the big robot, the one that looks like oh my god, I feel so stupid not knowing what it's called. The massive one that carries loads of droids.
Oh, you're talking about the AT-AT, the walker?
That's it, AT-AT. I knew that it was in my head.
Yeah.
When he took that down and fell off the mountain, I was like, oh.
Right, yeah.
I was watching on my computer, obviously, because it's a trailer on YouTube. But like in my brain, I'm thinking like I'm gonna be watching that on a massive freaking.
Right, yeah. I can't wait. Yeah.
No, me neither. To be fair, that if there's I might have to walk out of the cinema if there's kids and they're talking, but I'm not even gonna lie. Like I need some headphones.
Bro, believe it or not, it's coming sooner than you think. It's coming in 8 months. The movie's gonna come in 8 months. It's not that far off. I'm excited for it. I'm gonna watch it opening day. I don't care what's happening in my life. I am sitting there and I'm going to be watching that, and I am excited for it. I just hope they build it up to what I want it to be built up to be, to Thrawn. That's what I want.
Yeah.
It to be positioned to. If they could set it up like that, chef's kiss, I'll be.
Because, like, obviously we don't necessarily know fully the plot. But like, do you think he'll come at the end? Do you think that'll be like an end scene?
An end credit scene? I don't really know. I don't personally think so, but I wouldn't mind it. It would have to be done properly, though, in my opinion. Like it can't be like the whole movie's gonna be about him at the end. You know what I mean?
Yes, that's what I mean. Like I don't think he's gonna be in the movie.
No. They have to find a way to like do it smartly and properly. Yeah. So I'm hoping they could do that well, but if not, I'll be like, all right, whatever. At least hint towards him is all I'm really asking.
Yeah, I'm gonna be really fussy if I don't see IG-11. I'm not gonna lie to you.
You might. Who knows?
Like,
or not? Yeah, we might see it at the end.
When I see Grogu in IG-11, controlling IG freaking 11. Then again, actually, from what I've seen in the trailer, I actually think you're gonna see him use more of his force powers. From what
maybe. Yeah, for sure.
So, bro, if we get him carrying a lightsaber,
that would be interesting.
I'm gonna scream like a big baby. I'm not even gonna lie.
I would be curious on how that works out, but I'm actually one of those individuals where it's like I hope he doesn't become a Jedi. To be honest with you, I would like him to use the Force, but I don't necessarily would like for him to become a Jedi. I want him to choose his own path, which is obviously whatever Luke gave him, and like he ended up going back with the Mandalorian. But whatever we see, I really hope it connects well. That's what I'm really asking. I'm just excited that we get to see a Star Wars movie again.
Oh yeah, fully, and hopefully a good one.
Yeah, hopefully, yes, that is, because like I suffered. That's all I can tell you.
Mandalorian. I keep saying it the wrong way around. The Mandalorian series. Obviously, it's been a series, so episode after episode, which obviously you can cram in a lot more.
For sure.
Time and so on. Where with a movie, even though Star Wars movies do go quite long, like they don't have that much time. Because if I'm right by saying there's like 7 episodes, maybe a little bit more of the series normally.
7 or 8.
7 or 8, and they're about an hour long, if not a little bit more.
Yeah, sometimes 45 minutes, 35 minutes.
Like you're not getting an 8-hour film. It's not going to happen.
No
one's sitting there for 8 hours. I would personally.
Yeah, me too. But
my legs would
like I
probably
said,
fall off for sitting down that long.
if you're gonna release an 8-hour movie, that better be released from home. I'm not sitting in the movie theater for 8 hours.
Yeah,
That's all I gotta say.
Rose laid like sideways
Right,
in
for
the film.
sure.
No, I'm with you. But yeah, I hope they do it justice. Because in the one of the latest episodes of Thingy, he obviously saves them, doesn't he, Grogu, and he is known as Din Grogu because obviously
Yeah,
making his son.
yeah.
So, yeah, and obviously we already know he's got the chest plate and so on. So like,
Yeah.
to be fair, if I see Grogu with a fucking Mandalorian helmet, I might scream.
That would be crazy.
Because I've already seen concept art of it. So like,
Right.
you know how like we would say in wrestling, which actually funny enough we haven't even spoken about. But like in wrestling, as like when they like you're trying to be a booker, fantasy book, bro. If I see him as like a Mandalorian, but that can use the Force,
Right.
now you're taking the piss. You know what I mean?
My fantasy booking is that I get to see Ahsoka and Luke Skywalker fight together. That is my fantasy booking. I want to see both of them fight together. I want to see what is basically Luke's aunt. That is his aunt. Ahsoka is Luke's aunt.
Basically, yeah.
And, yeah, basically. Like I would love to see those two, or at least have Ahsoka talk about Anakin to Anakin's son. Like that, I would like to have that conversation. That's my fantasy booking. Because she's gonna have a very emotional experience.
Yeah,
talking
rather than
about
him being an evil person.
Right, and that's the reason why it's going to be very emotional because he's seen both the light and the dark of his father. So he like I would very much would love for that to happen. Plus, I would also love for Luke to tell Ahsoka that at the end he redeemed himself. He threw the Emperor down and he died as Anakin because she doesn't know that. The last thing she knows is that she fought Vader and Anakin is dead. Like that's the last thing she remembers.
That happened in Thingy, didn't it?
In Rebels, and it happened in Rebels. Yeah. So like for her, it's like Anakin is gone. I am what remains. Exactly what Vader says. So like, I would like for her to get a sense of closure from Luke saying, yeah, like when he died, he came back as Anakin. Like Anakin really returned. That would be nice. At least that's my fantasy booking.
No, I'm with you fully. I do actually have some quick fire questions for you.
Yes.
These are all random, super random. So, yeah, whatever you think, you say. There's no wrong answer because it's your answer.
Right.
But first one, we'll start with a football one. R9 or Cristiano Ronaldo?
Ooh, already started. I'm gonna have to go to Cristiano Ronaldo, even though I love R9. I gotta respect CR7.
Okay. Messi or Maradona?
Who?
Messi or Maradona?
Messi. I'm not second guessing that.
This guy. Darth Vader or Luke Skywalker?
You mother. I'm gonna go with Luke Skywalker because he became very fundamental to my personal life. So I'm gonna go with Luke Skywalker.
New York or Japan?
I hate you. You know that, right? I hate you. I've been to Japan once. I really like Japan. I'm sorry. I gotta pick Japan.
Bayern Munich or Dortmund?
Watch your mouth. Next question. What is these?
Bro, pizza or burgers?
Oh, I like both, but pizza. You can't go wrong with a good pizza.
Boots or sneakers?
I really like sneakers. I'm more of a sneaker guy.
Okay. Being suited or a chill, lazy look? Being in like some pajamas or something?
I'd rather be suited.
Suited. Okay.
Yeah.
Coke or Pepsi?
Coke. Yeah, Coke.
Marvel or DC?
DC in terms of story, but in
Okay.
terms of the movies, you have to go with Marvel.
Battlefield or Battlefront?
Bro, what is wrong with you?
You thought I was going to say Call of Duty, didn't you?
Yes, I
Bro,
was like,
what he had
bro,
it
I'm gonna
lit
say
in the head.
Battlefield, bro. Shoot us, shoot us. Shout out Robbie, man. That's what I want to say to you right now. Oh, fuck off, bro. The game's gone. The game's gone. The game's gone. That's all I have to say to you. Battlefront. That's very close. Like that's fine margins. Battlefront. I hate you because Battlefield has historical games. I hate you. Judas, Judas, you fraud,
This guy.
bro.
I think that's where we'll end it, bro. You calling me a Judas.
Fraud, bro. We didn't even get to talk about wrestling.
Now, I'm definitely getting you on again. We're talking about wrestling.
Yeah,
All pod
sure.
about wrestling. But yeah, hopefully you guys have enjoyed. Hopefully got to know Lewis a little bit more. I enjoyed this one, even though he's shaking his head at me. You know, it's cool to learn certain things that I didn't know about him. So yeah, man. Hopefully everybody has enjoyed. Make sure you smash the likes, hit the subscribe button. I can't do my outro because he's shaking his head at me. But
fraud.
Yeah, smash the likes, hit the subscribe button. Hopefully everyone's enjoyed. Yeah, until then, we're out. Thank you for watching. Peace.
Peace.
Thanks for watching this video. Before you go, if you haven't already, hit the subscribe button. Give us a like. Give us a nice comment. Leave a nice comment. These things go a long way. We're doing big things here, my friends. And if you haven't already, please check out all of the other content that's on the channel, from live shows to full podcasts, shorts, clips, and everything else. Have a great rest of your day. Hopefully everybody is doing good. Bye for now.